We should talk about the reason the museum is here to begin with, based on the history of the man whose name is outside the door, Abram Belskie. The work that you see behind us and some of the other work is his work. And this museum was built by the Lions Club. And there's someone here who has a lot more history and knowledge and talent about the museum than I, and that's John Murphy. So, Murph, why don't you just take it from here?
When Mr. Belskie passed away, the family, his children, were interested mostly in selling the property and going somewhere else. And the contractor that bought the house was going to tear it down. And when he looked inside, he discovered what you're seeing here. And he just couldn't do it. So he went to a man by the name of Jerry Cripenstein, who was the town attorney and judge at a Lion. And they went and they looked at it and they agreed that they just couldn't throw this away. So the Lions Club got involved, they packed it all up, put it in storage. And at that time, the Lions Club in town here were mostly contractors. And they actually built the place. It wasn't just something they funded. They hired an architect to do a museum design. And then they actually built it. They dug the foundations, poured the footings, did the carpentry, the electrical work, the whole 9 yards to get it going. And then since then, they've staffed it. There's at least 3 or 4 Lions involved on the board of directors and involved with the town on behalf of Belskie. So we still to this day are finding parts and pieces of his material. It's just incredible. I don't think the man ever really slept. He worked right up until the very days before he passed away. In fact, one of the last things he did is just over here a bit. I don't know if you can see it. It's the model of the Vietnam veteran. We've had men who served in Vietnam come in here and tell us that is absolutely accurate. And that is typical of Belskie. He became involved more with coinage and medallic arts, let's put it that way. And he became quite proficient, quite famous for doing those. He was an amazing, versatile man.
Well, what happened was after they opened the museum with the Lions Club, having beautifully built it, we put up his show. After a while, it was needed to have some more excitement in it. So then we decided to make it into a gallery of artists in the Northern Valley. And that's how what you see in this particular showing of the best of the Belskie has been done in the last 8 years by these artists. So it's really, as I've said before, and as Murph and myself and about 4 or 5 other volunteers have a love for the cultural scene. And that's what this gallery and museum is now about, in honor of the man named Belskie.
Mr. Belskie made his living doing this. He made a good living for a long period of time. We're not going to be quite that good the first day, but we're going to work with the same things that he did. He made and cast this coin. And he did that for a living. When somebody was going to have a presentation, the Nobel Peace Prize, or Babe Ruth when he hit his 714th home run, or whatever, they would have a ceremony and he would make the medallion and give that to them. So those are cast in metal from his original sculpture. We have a tremendous advantage here because he was so good at his carving that they're very easy to cast. We're going to go a little easier and then do single-sided castings. And you're going to get the feel for this very quickly. It's going to come very quickly. In order to do something with that, I made a mold which was just designed to hold this up in the air. Didn't have to worry about what was on the back side of it. It's held up in the air by the rim. After after I did that, I mixed up the two liquids that make the mold rubber. I poured it on there and went home. It takes about 4 hours for the rubber to harden, but when it's hardened, it does this. Like that. Came time to take it apart. Picked it up, pushed it out, popped it out, and I had a perfect, perfect model of Belske's volume right here. Well, that didn't prove much, so what then I did, I wanted to make another one. I mixed up the casting resin, and that you gotta hustle with. The casting resin gets hard in about 3 to 5 minutes. Poured it in here, let it sit 5 minutes, it turned white, and that's what I got.
You're gonna do this.
You're gonna do this. You're not gonna have any trouble at all doing it. You will be amazed, but you're going to do that. From the mold, we're going to pour actual castings. We're going to use resin casting, that's done cold or lukewarm, but the principle and the process is exactly the same for casting metal. And some of the things I'm going to show you today that were done by Mr. Belskie, for whom the museum is named, he did this 50 or 60 or 70 years ago, and he had to use bronze. And bronze melts at a very high temperature, like 800 degrees, very, very warm. We have metals now that will melt below the boiling point of water, below 212 degrees. So we can do the same thing that he did more easily, which makes me even more in awe of his talent. And when I show you some of his medallions and coins, you just won't believe what he was able to do. But we have the real advantage. We're going to be able to do the same thing, and nobody will be able to tell the difference. And having gone to A.C. Moore and looking for things to cast, that was a candy box. I sanded off the back so it would be flat. Will sit down flat. Flat's important because you don't want the rubber to run underneath and mess things up. So, those of you who have anything, dig in. Those who didn't have something, look around here and see if any of these things would be of interest to you.